to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess we can get started.
Alrighty.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us, and we hope we can meet up your expectations. For the record, my name is Tom Sullivan. I've been involved in New Mexico education for 50 years. That's where I met Mr. Wiley. But I was superintendent in both Moriarty and Farmington for many years. Did some interim work. We're talking about Roy. I was in Mora even. But after retiring, I still wanted to do something, so I've been doing some of this consulting work, did master plans and things like that. We did interim work and now superintendent searches. We have worked with the blessing, if you will, of Mr. Guillen, the executive director of your School Boards Association, and we just look forward to helping districts in New Mexico. That's been our both of our lives in education. And I'll let Dr. Paul introduce herself, and then we'll dig into this.
I'm Linda Paul. I'm also a recovering retired superintendent.
Recovering is the right word.
Recovering is the right word. I was up in Aztec schools for many years. First as the assistant superintendent and then superintendent. I left Aztec in 2009. I did some work at the University of New Mexico. Decided higher ed is not my thing. And so, like Tom said, I retired and then been working with school boards all over New Mexico since then. And it's great work. We're so excited to be here. I've driven through Clayton, but this is the first time I'm gonna park my boots tonight.
Right on. Awesome.
Spend the night and we're looking for restaurant recommendations before we go too far.
Okay, we'll figure that out. Okay.
All right, I bet you guys are the ones to ask. So we have a lot of work to do tonight. I'll let Tom hand out the packet and the list of the work that we need to do, but it'll go quickly because
And if you don't mind,
It's good stuff.
gentlemen, this is what we're doing for.
Thank you.
Here's one for.
Thank you.
Now, I'm giving you this single page as an outline for tonight's work.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna give you a packet that has this same page, or what seems to be the same page, but for some reason, it got funkified in the printing. So please think of the one I just handed you as a singleton as the replacement for that first one, and then the rest of the information in that packet is what we will be using.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna try to do with you this evening. Our goal would be to leave here tonight with the information that we need to put together a packet and an advertisement for the vacancy. And I mentioned to Ms. Leal, I don't know if I mentioned it to Ms. Lees, you have your regular board meeting next Wednesday, the 15th. I'm confident that we can have everything put together for you guys, to give a final blessing and then be on the streets with the ad by next Friday.
That's awesome.
I think that is doable.
100%. But we
So-
have to get good work done tonight.
That is correct.
No jacking around, okay?
That's
right.
All right.
And before we break, then also, it doesn't have to happen prematurely, I use that word. But Ms. Leal had talked about some kind of a survey that you were interested in, kind of to get the feel for how the community is seeing the district currently. We can do that. We brought a little sample of something that, would kind of outline what that might look like. And if we chose to do that to get community input, it would be probably using the district's, push button on emergencies, 2-hour delay, and you get that info out to everybody. We could do surveys with that and turn it around very quickly. The sample we brought isn't exactly a climate survey, but I think you can get the sense of how we could piece it together. From our experience, we don't think that having that input is necessary to do what we want to do tonight, which is identify some of the key things. That feedback, we believe, will be more important to you when you're designing, crafting questions. They will have told you, here's what's important, here's what's going on. So as you start looking through filters to interview people, keep that in the back of your head. And we'll craft questions that focus on the things that you and they tell us are important. Does that sound like it makes sense?
Sounds good.
So, anyway, that's kind of a brief summary of the process. We're gonna work on the ad tonight. We're gonna fill out a timeline, because, you know, depending on how quickly you want this decision made, you know, we're gonna have to back down from that date and see, you know, what else we can squeeze in between that and getting the advertisement going. And one of the well, let me just go with this thing.
Do they have the packets? Do you have a-
Yes.
Okay, great. Because the sample timeline is on the second page. So it looks like a chart like this. And so you see that there's a lot of blank spots in there. We have November's and then today's meeting. But what we'd like to do actually is start with the end in mind. So when do you want the new superintendent to start work? Are you
July
looking at
1 is the
July
start
1
of your new
start?
fiscal year.
Are you looking at, and maybe if they could come
I would
early.
I would think that we need to get somebody in a little earlier if possible, that way we could like, kinda get the rundown from our current superintendent on like, you know, just like passwords, here's the keys, this is where all the things, I feel like, you know, it's almost like a little bit of a mentorship thing, instead of just like, okay, here's 4 different schools, best of luck, you know what I mean? That, I feel like that, what do you guys think?
Budget allowing, I
Yeah,
think that's a
we're
great
gonna have to
idea.
get paid when we pay to.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a pain.
And
That's a very good point.
I think Mr. Meneses plans, he kind of indicated that he plans to take about a month of his vacation time, so we're talking, what, like, he'll be here till the end of May? Is that right?
So, let me just jump in on that, if you don't mind, Ms. Liz. We can certainly advertise it as July 1 or as ASAP, as soon as possible. Chances are that somebody else from another district is in the same situation. They've got accumulated leave, you know, they can work with their district to get released earlier too. And frankly, sometimes if it's a copacetic relationship, a transition period between those two people works great. Sometimes it doesn't, you know. So, you know, that might be something that you'd want to think through too. The finances is certainly another issue. And if you had to compensate 2 people for a month, where's the budget for it?
What many districts do, what many school boards do, is set the July 1 start date as the official start date. But if the candidate is able to come early, especially if they're able to maybe attend the school law conference with you in June, this way you've got some time to spend together, you can, you know, do meals together, you can learn together, and that's always a nice kind of ease into and that's usually the beginning of June. So, like Tom said, if they're able to come even at the end of May, spend a couple of days with your outgoing superintendent, trust me, it doesn't take weeks to, like you said, to do the important things that you mentioned, like the passwords and the keys and all those things. But a couple of days, I think, is reasonable, and that keeps your costs down, so you're not paying 2 superintendents for 3 months. For 2 days, you can find that in the budget usually. So we can make it a win-win if you're interested.
I think that would be great. I think, and our current superintendent, I know that was a big problem for him, it's like, you know, it was kind of a bad situation, and then like, they just like threw the keys, and it's like, best of luck, and then maybe they spend weeks trying to figure out just where everything is, and like all the, you know, the passwords and stuff like that, and we definitely don't want that
Well, I
situation
don't think
to
it's
happen.
gonna be that bad. I mean, Ray's they'll be,
Do the right thing,
the
yeah.
passwords will be there and everything, he's not gonna walk out and say, here
Right.
it is.
And my understanding is that this young lady works as the administrative assistant to both the board and the superintendent, which should make, my guess is that she'll know the passwords.
She's a
and she
super-
can help.
Super duper hero.
And you probably know where the keys are.
Yeah.
He does.
Yes, she's got it, so.
But anyway, to Linda's point, you know, if you're comfortable with a July 1 or ASAP and you keep the options open, that's probably a good plan.
And we can do that negotiation when you make the offer, to
Okay.
say, look, we'd love you to come for a couple of days in May, just to introduce you to the community, let you meet the mayor, let you meet the staff, blah, blah, blah. we can handle that very easily and very professionally, so, okay, so we'll put July 1 or ASAP, or July 1 or ASAP.
Great.
Great, so backing from that gives us lots of room, but we don't need all that room. What I'm gonna suggest is this. We have found the sweet spot for advertising superintendent positions to be about 30 days. So as long as we can advertise the position for 30 days, it could be from, January 31st to February 28th, or whatever the end of February is this year. It could be from February 1st to March 1st. But 30 days seems to be that sweet spot. So as long as we can leave that sweet spot in the plan, so like Tom said, we could have drafts of everything for you next week at your regular board meeting. So that puts you into the week of the 20th. I mean, the 27th of January, I think, is a realistic date, so is the 1st of February. So one of those two dates, either the very end of January, the very beginning of February, and that gives us 30 days, you're interviewing early March. And so in terms of your communication with the staff, communication with the community, all of those things, you've got plenty of time to do that. Plus, it settles everybody down a little bit. You can name the new superintendent before the end of the school year. And so if we kind of protect those 30 days, a couple of weeks here in the front, and then 2 or 3 weeks in the back end after the ad, because Tom and I do exhaustive reference checks. So we like to have 2 weeks to do that. Now, once you screen down to your finalists, then we know who we're doing the background checks on, and that can go, but we do want some time, because you call people, they have to call you back, you text them, they text you, it takes time, and we wanna do it well. So we don't wanna rush that part either. So that would be, I think, our recommendation. I'll speak for Tom, but certainly for my recommendation is let's think about either February 1 or January 27.
And
Let it go for 4 weeks, and then,
what I would add is I think you guys are still gonna be way ahead of the game.
I do too.
We've been working with Dulce, they're interviewing for their vacancy on January 31st. We don't know of any district that's that far along in the process, and if you guys get started around then, you're also ahead of folks. There are other districts that we know are open, but they haven't started pursuing anyone yet.
So do you have a preference, January 27th?
I'd say
or?
the end of January, then it put us the end of February.
Okay,
That's fine.
And whatever's good with y'all, it's good with.
Okay.
I'd like to end it on a Friday, if you're okay with that. 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And we set up a dedicated email address for that, so it doesn't come to you, it doesn't come to us on our business emails, it goes to a separate place. And the board will have access to everything that we do, but we try to keep you, we try to do the communication with the applicant. So if it's something's incomplete or blah, 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 we're in the middle, so to speak, to try to get that all organized so that when we hand you packets, application packets, they're complete. And we have time to do that if we kind of follow this flow.
So the 31st would end on February 28th,
Yes, sir?
Friday to Friday.
So January 31st to February, can't believe we're in February already, 28th.
That is crazy.
Perfect, that would be awesome. And we will, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So realistically, in like a month's time, like how many applicants do you guys usually get? It just seems not very long. I mean, I'm sure, I guess that's it, but it doesn't seem like very long.
I'll give you a couple of examples. I helped Farmington District a couple of years ago. Big district, and I've been there myself, thought it would have been remarkably attractive. They had 7 packets that met the requirements. I think they had more inquiries, but only 7 submittals to choose from. I was shocked. We're doing Dulce now, and we have 11 completed packets. We had over 20 inquiries. So, it's hard to tell. The timing, the location, there are lots of reasons, I guess, why one district draws more attention than another. But one of the things that we try to do is we try to help you prepare marketing materials that will make you more attractive than those other districts. Linda, anything to add to that?
Nope, and we'll talk a little bit later about where you want to advertise, and that will also, we need to coincide or align that with the window, the 30-day window, so we can help with that. But we'll talk a little bit later about where you want to advertise, whether you want to go national, you want to stay in the state, all of those things. And, you know, the bottom line is, it's your search. And so at the end of the advertising period, and we give you written updates as time, once a week or so, we'll say, hey, we
Oh, that's
received
good.
seven inquiries, we've gotten 2 applications in, we won't tell you who yet until the closing date, just to keep everybody's confidential information confidential, but we will keep you posted. But at the end of the search, this has never happened to us, but it can, at the end of that, not the end of the search, the end of the advertisement period, if you only get, let's say, 2 applications, you can say, nope, not enough, we need to go out again. So you continue to hold the decision-making reins throughout the process. We're gonna give you our best advice, we're gonna give you, you know, what we know has worked, because we've been doing this a while, but you know what? You're the board, and you get to make this decision, not us. And so our job is to set you up for success, and if you're not feeling like this is gonna be a successful search, after we've advertised for 30 days, we need to jump on it immediately and change course, and we can do that.
Great.
I believe that we will also, in that, mid-time updates for you, be able to let you know whether they were in-state or out-of-state candidates. Obviously, we have better contacts for finding out backgrounds of in-state candidates, but we've also worked with adjacent states, and you guys are near adjacent states. I personally have visited recently with the association director in Texas. Lynn and I both can contact the gentleman in Colorado. I've talked to Arizona in the past, but that's not one of your adjacent states. I don't know the person in Oklahoma these days, but I'm just thinking that you guys want to have kind of a broad net here, so I just want to mention that as well.
I think that we do. I mean, we're so close to Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, that like, we're almost more like, not more, almost. We're definitely more like them than we are like Albuquerque, you know what I mean? And so,
That's exactly right.
and our people think that way, and that's kind of, you know what I mean? And I think that's a big deal, as far as like, well, the smell of cows and stuff doesn't bother anybody,
Or the wind.
Or the wind, or yeah, like, those are things that are important, like somebody's on the panhandle's like, a little wind doesn't scare me, you know what I
Distance from
mean?
Walmart. and-
Yeah. So,
Great, so
So-
what we'll do then is plan on advertising nationally, and then I know Colorado, and they'll advertise it in their state for us at a nominal fee of $50, and so we'll definitely plan on
Great.
doing that. And we'll check into whether Texas, Oklahoma have similar I know Texas does not, but maybe Oklahoma does. So if we can do some really targeted marketing or advertising in the state, we'll do that. If not, and in addition to, we'll do the national one too. It'll cost a few dollars more, which is not included in our fee, it's a pass-through cost. But I think it's, at the end of the day, it's money well spent.
It's AASA is the Association of American School Administrators. That's the only national publication that we think is worth anything, and we've gotten responses through it. I can tell you the Albuquerque Journal is a waste of your money. I don't know whether you have the Union County paper, or is that gone bye-bye?
No, it's
oh no, we got it.
Is that where you
Got it.
still advertise and post your board meetings and such? So as a courtesy, if nothing else, we would certainly do it there. And there are freebies in the state. The School Boards Association, the Administrators Association, the personnel group through CES. Do you guys use Cooperative Education? Even have them logo with it. If you use them, they also have a personnel system. So, and those are freebies. They're glad to do those kinds of things for us.
And we'll also ask that it be posted on the Clayton website, on any Facebook or Instagram pages you have, anything that you as a district normally use, we'll contact, Ms. Scott, I'm sure will help me find the right
Absolutely.
people for that, and get those ads placed in those places as well. So that if somebody goes to look up Clayton schools, they're gonna see the ad there too.
And can people just like Google superintendent
Oh, yeah,
open?
and many of them do.
Because I think that's what the principal, Mr. Howard was telling me, he just,
Google
like
it.
Google principal open positions and there was Clayton, he's like, hey, check that out.
The good news, and there's a flip side of that, with you can just find something on Google. We find people that are finding the questions that are most typically asked by boards when they're looking for superintendents, so they come very well prepared.
Well, you can find anything on it.
Yes.
And you gotta kind of sift through the cow stuff you guys were just talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you wanna?
Well, let's start with requirements in
Okay.
terms of
Good idea.
experiences. One of the things you'll have to have in your ad is possess or be, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, your ad will absolutely say possess or be eligible for a New Mexico administrative license, that's a given. And even if somebody's coming in from out of state, when they say be eligible for it, they have to petition to the state, but you can tell by a quick look at their credentials whether it'll pass muster, that's the easy one. The rest of it is up to you, and we're gonna discuss this. For example, how many years of teaching experience would you like a new superintendent to have? What would resonate with your teachers if, in terms of, well, this is my boss as he walked in my shoes?
I think more in terms of like combined education experience, like maybe teaching plus administration. or teaching plus-
Counseling.
Right,
Do,
counseling.
Is there like, because I don't know the
I agree.
Is there a set number of years you have to teach to be a superintendent?
I believe it's
For-
5
for-
to get the administrative
License.
certificate.
Oh, that's
I think that's what it
Currently-
was in Oklahoma, it was five.
You have to teach for 5 years?
Yeah.
That, yeah, yes. I'm gonna say 3 to 5, but let's go with the higher number just in case. I think it's good to have some.
Well,
You need
yeah,
to have been
it's
at the
about-
bottom before you.
In
I mean,
any
you know
job,
what I
you
mean?
need to know how it works on the bottom side.
You're gonna
Absolutely.
be the instructional leader for the district.
Yeah, you need to know what
You need
teachers
to
go
know,
through.
right,
yeah.
where the rubber hits the road.
Absolutely.
Are you comfortable with 5 years then? Of-
You
of
could say
teaching?
minimum of 5, and if
Minimum
some,
of 5, yeah,
would that work for you?
yes.
And now, how about admin experience? And before you answer that, I'm gonna parse it apart a little bit more and have you think about, do you want principal experience, or do you think central office is equivalent to principal or not? So, some people go right from the classroom to become director of instruction or director of special education, and then they're an administrator, but they've never been a building principal. Other people kind of go from the classroom to the principalship, to central office, to the superintendency. There's no one right path. Everybody has their own
What do you
path.
see the most success with?
Former principals.
I agree. I mean, I wanna find somebody that has supervised teachers before. And, again, just same thing, if the superintendent hasn't been a principal, are the principal's gonna have that same level of respect, or are they gonna think, he doesn't know, or she doesn't know what I do, and.
That's the same way with teaching, I mean, if they haven't taught and they come in, there's all of a sudden a superintendent, the staff's gonna be like, what?
That's exactly why we wanna,
I'm also
talk
scared
to you
about
about those two things. They are important,
Yeah.
the number of years that you expect, and I think your staff will appreciate that you're acknowledging these things matter.
I feel like I guess it depends on where you come from though, right? Like, if you're in a central office at a 5A school, that's a big deal, right? And like, you would have, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but say if they were the finance manager in the central
Different.
office.
Yeah, it's very different.
There's no real leadership in that position, and you want somebody that understands leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leadership
What
is
if-
key.
What if we said, 3 to 5 years administrative experience with 3 years of principal experience? What do you think about that? Or minimum 3 years principal experience?
We could say campus level experience, because some districts use terms, well, assistant principal is an
Principals,
obvious
yeah.
term, but we've heard dean of students and those kinds of things. And as long as we know that somebody has had a supervisory role, we think that that gets
That was
them
a big
above
deal.
the bar.
For sure, I
And
would
your
agree.
example of the finance director, you know, if the only person the finance director has ever overseen is his or her administrative
That's a good point.
assistant, that's not the same as being a campus principal.
For sure, I agree, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so minimum 3 years principal?
Or campus level?
Campus, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Does anybody have
Are we gonna
a
have a
problem
copy
with
of all
using
this for
campus
our-
level versus principal?
I'm wondering how hardcore I gotta take notes.
But, you know, one of the reasons why I say campus level is to your point. Rio Rancho High School, or now they got 2 high schools, but they both got about 2,000 students in them. They designate assistant principals to a grade level for everything, for their budget, for their supervision of the teachers, for all of that, for the curriculum. It's the only way they can get it split up. So you're right, somebody that has had that role in a large school, be, you know, even that much more different than that finance director you were talking
See, and I was thinking about that, like, even like at a junior high of a 5A school, there's more kids in their junior high than we have in our entire
Yeah.
district, you know, and.
Not so much worried about the kids, but the number of teachers that they supervise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
If that's what they're,
sorry, I didn't mean.
No,
to-
no, this is exactly the conversation we
Yeah,
wanted to
this is
have
great.
with you guys. You're exactly on the right topics.
Sorry, I'm taking notes. So
Well,
please
you know,
go ahead.
and we've had districts that wanted to have an add-on to those minimums where they say, central office experience preferred, or, you know, what, we've seen bilingual credentials preferred. I mean, it just depends upon maybe what that district's needs are at the time.
I would really like to focus on someone that, and I'm just speaking for myself, focus on someone that's not like close to their like retirement, and they're gonna like be invested in our school and be our next superintendent for the next 8-10 years. You know what I mean? Like long-term goals, and have like a long, like they're gonna bring their family here, and you're all in, like you're all orange and black with the rest of us. And that's, to me, that's a big thing.
yeah,
And I think
probably not someone that's retired in Texas and they're looking
double
to get
dipping kind of thing,
Get
I
a
wanna avoid that too.
advanced
I want,
retirement.
I want somebody young and hungry.
We can't put that in an ad.
You
but I
can't put
get
that in,
you.
okay, figure out how you can.
And we
That's
can't
what you
ask
pay
them
us.
during interviews, how old are you?
Yeah.
Right.
Or do you have a family?
Do you see my point though?
Yes, absolutely.
Not really?
But, don't discount, I mean, if I were to decide to come out of retirement and be a superintendent, I'm not young, but I've got a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and so just,
Well, no, you
So
know,
we'll
I
temper that a
wouldn't say
little
the
bit.
energy deal, but
yeah.
just,
Let me
That's
ask.
what
I know you want the commitment, and
Yes,
I
and
absolutely
that's what,
agree with that.
yeah.
That's
willing
what
to
I
make a
mean, it's
commitment
like,
to the district.
That they're not just, you know, marking time, retiring in place in a second community or something of that nature. We get that completely.
Yes, and we can structure it so that we're alluding to that without saying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to come off so.
No,
brash.
You're
you-
fine.
we
That starts
understand
the
that you
conversation.
don't
I
want
love
to
it.
have, you don't want to ever see us again,
Right.
right? So
Right.
you don't want to have, you
Well,
I
know.
would love to send you guys a Christmas card,
that-
yeah.
You know, you don't want to have turnover every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You know, what'll happen if you have that is the teachers are gonna, you know, they're gonna fold their arms and say, this too will pass.
Exactly.
You know,
Mhm.
we've outlasted 4 of them, we're gonna outlast another one. That's
what's
some-
the average lifespan of superintendent?
Currently, if you take out the real long-serving ones like Travis Dempsey and Mike Hyatt and Sue Cleveland at Rio Rancho, it's about 2 years.
That is terrible.
It is terrible. It
You
can't
barely
be,
get your feet on
that
the ground.
See,
instability.
there's not that many frames up there.
No, you guys are probably remarkably stable
Well,
compared to
Jack
other
was here
districts.
for a long time, the rest of them weren't here that long.
I mean,
Well-
Mr. Austin and all those guys were.
Yeah, Mr. Austin was here a long time, but I mean, from Jack.
Since then, it's been short. I mean, shorter. Ray, what, on his 5th year?
What Gus said, something that's important to me too, is someone who really wants to set down roots. I'm not looking for someone whose wife is gonna stay in Texas, and, I mean, we see that a lot.
I'm
here.
sure
We have
you
a
do.
Secretary of
They
Education.
bring their
Yeah.
5th wheel and they're living in like, no,
Right.
like you're here or not here.
So let me ask you this, because that's a great follow-up question. So a lot of districts will put, you know, we want the successful candidate to live in the district. not necessarily in town, but in the district, right?
Mm.
So the first thing that comes back from a candidate then usually is, well, is there, is there any help for me moving? And that's permissible under New Mexico law. You can offer, if that comes down to it, you can offer some moving expenses.
That does
So
sound
you can offer them a kind of a lump sum to say, if you're willing to sign a 2-year contract, we'll kick in $5,000 towards your moving expenses, maybe cover the closing costs or your new house or whatever. But it just shows a goodwill from the board and from the candidate that they're willing to do that and you're willing to help support that.
That's a good point.
And it's a really, in a budget your size, a $5,000 moving stipend is not a lot. But it goes to show that candidate that you're serious about wanting somebody here full-time, with their whole family.
Do you have a teacherage or anything of that nature? Okay, because sometimes that's the alternative to what Linda was just talking about.
Okay, we can do that.
We can't ask them, are you gonna move? Do you have kids and are they gonna come to school here?
Right.
But, we understand where you're coming from on this.
And I don't mean that like they have to have 10 kids so we
Right,
can,
right.
you know what I mean? Like that, I don't even
From
care.
kindergarten.
I mean, yeah, exactly. We get all this grades, all these, hopefully they all play basketball and football.
And not football.
Yeah.
But on that point, I don't mean to drag this out, but we worked with a district in the southeastern part of the state where that was important. They wanted the applicant, the winning successful applicant, to live in district. One of the candidates was internal, and they knew that that person didn't live in district because there were larger communities surrounding it. And that became a problem. There's a PR problem for the district when they turned down one of their own, but they felt strongly about there being a commitment to that district, so it can get interesting.
Mhm.
So we can handle that together down the line, when we know what the candidate pool looks like and all those things.
So we're talking about qualifications, this many years of this and this many years of that, and Linda touched on that part of it. One of the other things we would want in an ad that would at least catch people's attention are the skills and areas of strength that you are looking for. Worked in a district that at the same June 30th date, they were losing their superintendent of many years and their finance director of many years, same time, June 30th of the same year. Now, they were having a heart attack. So when they posted, they said, absolute requirement, knowledge of New Mexico public school finance. New Mexico is a unique financial structure. I don't know if you've heard that from talking to fellow board members, but in most states, it's based on local property taxes as opposed to 95% of ours coming directly from the state based on our student enrollment and profile. Very different. So in that case, and you might be in a similar situation, Mr. Spinelli isn't still your business manager. He kicked Moriarty's butt when he was a halfback in high
Yes, he
school.
did. He was bad in the bone.
But if we limit it to experience and that, then the out-of-state people are out.
I think you need to have a background in finance, or, you know what I mean? Or
So
like
that's
you
all
have a-
experience.
I see, well,
Cause then
depends
it,
on how much homework they do.
You
yeah,
can learn it.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
I learned it. What we can say is, experience in finance, New Mexico finance preferred, or knowledge of New Mexico finance preferred, but it's not a requirement, it's not a mandatory requirement. But they have to have some information about, finance, because they're gonna be where the buck stops, right before you. So.
That may have been the wrong example to use, but maybe, you're bigger. We were surprised the last couple of work we've done, integrity and values was at the top of the list for a half dozen districts. And we started thinking, what the heck is that saying about the way our people are behaving when they're in those jobs? But it was at the top of their list. Personnel management is often at the top of the list.
That would be up there for me.
Very high for me too.
I think communication is up there way up there.
They're all
So,
super
even
important.
though
You
you're
look at them and
only,
you're like,
since there are only 3 of them, should I give them more votes?
No. Okay, they can have 3
All right.
each.
Do us a favor, And from that list of 10, and we can explain them what we think they mean, if you're not comfortable with what it seems like it means, tell us which of those 10, and you can pick
Yeah.
3. I'll sell a fourth for $1. But what's important to you guys at this point in time in Clayton, New Mexico?
And you have that list in your packet also, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this to chart your answers, but it is in your packet.
So we can only pick 3, you say?
Unless you wanna pay me for extra votes.
How much is the extra votes?
Well, I said $1, but with inflation, I'm going up from 10.
Just kidding. Okay.
You know, they're all important, and, you know, probably put them in alphabetical order, but, then you'd want your leadership people to be able to demonstrate all of those skills and areas of strength to some degree. But which are the ones that you are absolutely needing and wanting right now? When we develop questions, we may touch on, and we work with you, when your questions are developed, it may be a better way to phrase that. We can touch on all of these, but if you tell us which are the most important, then we're gonna create several questions that illustrate or make them prove that those truly are their areas of strength and knowledge.
Right, but you're right, they need to have
Everything.
everything,
Yeah, I mean, there's no question, because they're all important at different levels, in different districts, at different times, that's the only thing.
Okay, here you go, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, I think we're gonna make that front and center in your posting, aren't we?
Just watch your step there. Sure.
And then we got ones
That's it.
everywhere else.
What did you guys?
Would either of your colleagues view this any differently? Would you wanna put in 2 cents, put words in their mouth?
I bet board relations would be important. I bet.
Board relations doesn't have any votes yet. How many of you think that would be a big?
I think probably public relations could be,
I picked public relations. I think that's,
What we're lacking right now. I think like being involved like in the community on community meetings and like stuff like that is where we're really lacking right now.
I
And
think our other 2 members also would agree on the personnel management. I think
Yeah.
everyone would.
One thought, because they each had one initially, those 2 can be merged. in my
they go
view.
together.
They do go together. And they're a little bit different from the superintendent board situation, but this is, you know, how you interacting with the community, with the staff, with you guys? Well, through a good communication system. I'm using communication systems because in this day and age, you gentlemen who was here before talking about AI, you know, there's gonna be all kinds of different communication systems.
Yeah.
It's not just I went out and talked to somebody.
Yes, sir.
And
And-
that's gonna build your public relations.
like, when you guys, you have talked about before about calling the school and talking to them about things, you could kind of find out a lot of those things from those conversations. Like, you know, how they related to the school board, you know,
Oh,
if that
sure,
was a
that's
position that
absolutely.
they
part
have.
of
I think
it.
that's like the background
Things like
check
that,
or
when you call to do your checks on them and things, some of that stuff you can find out there.
I want Cassie to close her ears now, but some of the best background checks I've ever done was talking to the administrative
I
assistant.
bet that's right.
Absolutely, I bet.
Well, am I
No
allowed to
pressure.
ask a little question? May I ask y'all just a small question? And this is just curiosity. How come, like, the state rules according to the public education department isn't a requirement in a possible requirement on the list. A knowledge of
Right.
the public education department.
I would put that under school law.
Okay,
And legislative
Okay.
issues, because the legislature, as we all know, makes all the rules
Yes.
ultimately. And so, knowing that system, knowing what's come out of that system, knowing what's rule, what's regulation, what you have to do to react to each of those, I think is critical. And again, I wanna say, this is a list that we've kind of put together.
Gotcha.
But that's where I put it in, where in my brain it
Okay.
sits, is that school law legislative issues stuff. Cause you're right, they have to follow the law, otherwise.
well, and just the knowledge of all of that, and what I've found in the time that I've been in the central office is, especially people coming from, and it's funny, we always laugh about Texas, because when we have staff come from Texas, they're baffled at the rules and regulations that we have. And just for our leader to know those things like the back of their hand and be able to, yes, I know nobody knows the entire book front to back or whatever it is, but just that.
And that is actually some of the questions that we used during the interview too.
Okay.
Because we wanna hear specifically what they're thinking about in terms of, we'll usually couch it in a situation, you know, like,
Mhm.
The high school principal calls you and the athletic secretary, and I'm not picking on anybody, if the athletic secretary is concerned that maybe there's some embezzlement going on, you know, how do you handle that? And what we're listening for are you following the rules?
Gotcha.
Do you know the rules? And if not, are you finding them out? Because one person can't know
Awesome.
them all.
Right.
But,
Thanks.
so we get a lot of that too during the interview process, about their knowledge and how would they handle if things were going sideways.
Awesome.
And they also have the State School Board Association to people
Mhm.
call and ask questions and find a lot of
Absolutely,
stuff.
and
out there.
the Coalition of
Yeah.
Educational Administrators, Education Leaders, they can call those folks, I mean, and there's a network.
Mhm.
One of the things that we're gonna strongly recommend is that you encourage your new superintendent to become part of the new superintendent's group.
Yeah.
So that they get kind of monthly doses of reality, you know, you can do this, you can't do that. We learn so much from our peers.
New Mexico is currently, and it's not through the public ed department, it's through
Yeah.
educators, running an aspiring superintendent's academy. It's been in place for about 15 years now.
Yeah, they talked about that at
And
the
a-
last meeting, I think.
And a number of those, a large number of the folks that have gone through that have become superintendents and become successful superintendents. So, and I mention that because of what you were saying. It was years ago, but in my ed program, not another, coursework at the university, there was a section, specific course on finance. There was a specific course on school law. Trying to think of what else there might have been that was specific, instructional leadership.
That's
I
what
know.
they talked about, that one being one of them.
Yeah,
that they-
so, there are specific trainings that everybody's been through, and then they acquire other skills, as they go through the career.
Well, I appreciate you guys letting me ask. Thank you.
Oh.
I
I would like
appreciate
to
it.
see our superintendent, like, be involved in like the NMAA and a bunch of these things that like, people don't realize that we exist up here. That's just the facts of it. Santa Fe doesn't know that we exist, Albuquerque doesn't know that we exist hardly, and like, so I don't want us to be on an island. I want us to be front and center in things, is that?
But I think too, with that, the communication system and their ability to handle public relations is a plus in dealing with that.
I agree, I would agree.
You know, if they're a good communicator and they're not
Yes.
afraid to go and ask questions and talk to people, big plus.
The other piece of that is you folks need to be willing to support that superintendent in attending
Oh, definitely,
conferences
yeah,
and
yeah.
interacting with their peers.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. That's a good point,
You're
yes.
scaring me too much before.
I'm sorry. Well,
That's okay.
if I'm understanding you correctly, then besides personnel management, you would want to have communications and public relations, and we could massage the language, but I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but does that seem like a second point of emphasis?
You've got, if you're a good leader, you've got to be able to communicate and have good relations, be able to have good relations with people.
And
that's just,
and it isn't necessarily the same method of communication
Right.
with every one of your constituents.
that's right.
Mhm.
there a Chamber of Commerce in,
Yes.
Yes.
you know, is the superintendent, always, have a seat on the chamber? I don't know, in some communities
Oh,
that is the case.
I believe they can, and, the Rotary Club and stuff like that.
That's exactly what I was gonna ask about
Joint
next.
commission,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
things like that.
Lions, or Rotary, whatever is in
And,
town.
we too, as a board, we have to understand that they have a big job to do, and, they're not always gonna be able to attend a lot of that stuff, and to be part of it.
Or send somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, send
You need to
somebody.
be represented in
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, the school needs to be represented in everything that happens here.
Are there any partnerships or foundations that are already in place, or,
We need to work on that.
are there any economic development that can
Yes.
work into your career and tech programs? Anything like that, you would wanna know that this person can help you get there.
Yeah.
So just so you know, I've started a list called negotiations, and that is something I wanna be sure that we include kind of at the back end. Like, part of the expectation is that you're gonna be involved in the community and the state, and so that you're gonna have memberships and blah, blah, blah. So we can cover that during
It's
negotiations.
so vague and cheesy, but like, man, it's just like leadership A, B, C, D, and E, you know what I mean? It's like you're the head coach of the whole school, like you're everything.
You're it.
So, I think, yeah, it's just leadership across the board as far as what I know.
Well, then, unless I'm hearing disagreement, we would like to have at least 3 from this list that we focus on in the ad. And I'm hearing 2 for sure, and then I'm hearing leadership in general, or, leadership including, we can play with it, but is safety and security on everybody's mind, or is, the
Our
community-
current superintendent does an incredible job with safety and security.
So it's not as big an issue moving forward, just keep things
Just
moving
keep it
forward.
going.
I think so, but he has done an amazing job with safety and
So,
security.
Great.
I'm not trying to pick on whoever might have listed that as one of their 3, but if it's already in good shape, maybe you don't need to list it.
Just keep it up, I mean.
Yeah, and it has been, that is one thing, like, that's been amazing.
Yeah.
in my
Good,
opinion.
good. I'm trying to push you towards picking one other thing besides the 2 that we've kind of already agreed upon.
Can you just do leadership in general?
Of course.
Do we do leadership and then
No,
we'll
I
just
think-
whisper
I
the rest
think
of those next to
The
it?
personnel management and the communication systems, public
It's all part
relations,
of it.
that's all part of leadership.
Yeah.
I
Right,
mean,
we've tried to kind of define
Yeah.
out.
Let's either do
leadership.
finance or school law, what do you guys say? If you were to pick one.
I would do finance over school law.
How are you finding this? Cassie said that your enrollment's been pretty stable, which is great in the state of New Mexico. Even Albuquerque's lost probably 5,000 students since COVID.
I bet they have.
And, I understand what Cassie's saying, that finance is really important. I think Zach's done a really good job of getting that.
I think our finance is great.
Yeah.
I think
honestly.
And I
We have a
think,
really
you
good
know,
financial manager.
Excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not retiring on June 30th.
No, he's not.
Right.
Good, good, good.
For me, the past teacher counselor, being an academic leader is super important in
Huge.
raising our standards as far as academics
Huge.
go. I do not wanna see our percentages
Decline.
embarrassing in the paper.
Yes, I agree.
Guys, I think most people who are looking at ads want that to be
They
there
wanna see
because
that,
they want to
yeah.
prove to you that they are
can do
an
that.
instructional leader.
Well, and I think that's really important.
So there, are you
It
okay
is.
with those?
That's
being
what
the
it
three?
is. I mean, we're here to learn, you know what I mean?
You know, we're gonna find out how strong they really are in all 10 of these areas, but the focus in the
The benchmark
promotion,
of it.
these are the 3 that we're gonna focus on. You good with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, awesome.
Sorry that's taking us so
No,
long.
no, 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 please do not
No,
apologize.
this is
why we're here.
perfect. This is exactly what we
We've got a hotel
wanted
room
to do.
tonight, we're fine, because.
Right on, cool. All right, great. Thanks for having a good attitude.
Don't worry about
All right.
it, we want you to
Well,
feel like,
we're getting
you've
there.
gotten your point across.
We've already covered the application window. We talked about where to advertise. Are you okay with, it costs about $600 for a month
A little more.
in, a little more than that?
Yeah, I think it's
Up a little
between
bit.
700 and 800 a
Ouch.
month.
For the national publication. Are you okay with that, or you just want to do
And we'll
this?
pay for it up front. I'll use my credit card, my business credit card, and pay for it up front, and we'll get a receipt and just ask for
Has
reimbursement.
that worked good for you guys?
We have had some quality applicants from that journal.
think another thing that we should say in our advertisement is that we're not very far from the mountains.
Yes, sir, we're gonna be talking about marketing in just a minute.
Oh, sorry, I mean to jump ahead, my bad.
No, that's
No, no.
great, that's
In
great.
fact, yeah, we wanna make this attractive.
Your national one is, does it reach more than REAP does? Cause we use REAP, okay,
Yeah.
We'll do REAP as well.
okay,
Because that's a
perfect,
freebie.
Yes.
awesome, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
But national is different than like just the Texas one or so like we can do those also, or is it like a?
I've got to know, I know we can do Colorado, and it's so
Okay.
minimal that, let's do Colorado. I'll check into Oklahoma, I know Texas does not. And so if we could, I'll check into Oklahoma, if they have it, we'll take advantage of it, if they don't, then we'll make sure that, that national ad is good. And,
Texas has been helpful
Oh, yeah,
in not
Texas is
letting us
awesome.
post necessarily, but if we call them, they will put us in touch with somebody. You know, they have, it's the equivalent of a regional educational co-op, but it's larger. And, but we've known people that were in that co-op, they said, we'll call their executive director, you'll get feedback. So, you know, even if we can't get a free posting, we can still use them as part of our background and research.
Great.
And I suspect that some of them probably don't want to because you're pulling from their pool.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
But I think that that's just more of a reason why we should pull from their pool. You know what I mean?
We'll
Tell
do
us
the
you
best
can
we
and we
can.
will.
And we'll use, read your website, all those good things as well.
Great.
So I think we'll get some good coverage.
And if they're looking for a job, they're gonna look on REAP, they're gonna look on the national deal, they're gonna do their research.
Exactly. People, when I was looking for a superintendent position, I relied heavily on the AESA ads, because they were the most current, they were the most interesting boards, because the board had a bigger vision than just, this is my street, this is my district, but we want to do what's best for our kids, and we're willing to work with people to do that. And so, I personally always look for boards that advertise there.
Awesome.
The last thing that we need to put together, the ad itself, is a salary range. Now, the state, because I contacted them this week, asked them for an updated superintendent salary list. It's not being provided. The last time they had one was 22-23. And we know what those were, and, comparable and about the same size as you from that year. But the best information we have currently are districts that have recently done searches and what their salary range was. I'm not sure what Mr. Maestas might have been making, but, that might be, what you look at. Then if somebody has less experience, you might be willing to go a little bit lower, not be willing to, but try to go a little bit lower. If somebody's got good experience, you want to bring them in, you might need to go higher, but we need to advertise with a range and let you guys decide whether that person, would merit the higher end or not.
I'll pass this around to the three of you. I wrote down so part of my scratch, but the recent school superintendent searches that we've done and what the salary range was. One, I did Cimarron several years ago, but that was back in '23, so it's a little older. And then I also put down what your district had for the 22-23 school year, just so you have a reference there. But you might as well just look at that, rather than me reading it to you.
And, where it gets interesting is the state doesn't set superintendent salaries, but the state does have a link between the level 3 teacher salary and administrative salaries at campus level. So when a high school principal was guaranteed $112,000, it drove superintendent salaries that much higher again.
Well, we want to be super competitive. I mean, that's like we want to be competitive.
That's why we're asking.
Don't go there, come here.
But again, don't lock yourself into one figure. Let's look at a range.
We would highly recommend a range of salaries, and that's all thousands of dollars. I'm sure you figured that out.
Where's your comfort level in this?
These schools that you listed above us recently hired,
Or in the process.
okay.
dual sync just advertised with that number. And Eunice, you just filled at the beginning of the school, this school year. Los Lunas was probably the oldest on that list, and that was 2 years ago also. So, but it gives you some,
Yeah, Bloomfield, Milwaukee, and Espanola were quite recent.
yes, within the calendar year 24.
I mean, for start now, anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's ways we can always,
Jim?
if they're doing a bang up, we can go up on it.
Yep, that's what Mark said.
Barnes and I agree.
Alright.
Do we have a
Should you
magic
write
number?
that down?
I'm gonna, very big letters, Lees and Barnes agree. What time is
I
it?
also agree. I don't want
Oh my
this.
goodness.
I will also agree.
Can you tell us now?
Yes, 130 to 150 probably.
Thank you.
130 to 150?
Great,
We'll do
thank
it.
you.
We'll do it then.
That's great,
And,
thank
you
you.
know, we can
Guess we
tell
could
you,
go
but
more if they're a
the Clayton
doctor.
board is very, very cohesive, so don't go ruining that impression on the first.
At the table, into a corner, they'll feel some. On the, that'll make superintendent start reaching out. Commit, walk me through downtown, the businesses are. Talk to me about this, so it's a nice way people without and valuing their opinion yourselves in situation.
The one is the round that Linda just, once you get feedback through a survey, with staff members, kind of bring that process.
Awesome.
Many of so
Say you really did. You did. Short. It was like Coach Finale.
many of your parents leaders and many of are also parents are also overlap, and it takes, you know, that it's one favorite kind of thing, magnificent job with them ahead of time. They will that you can use for your own, but we can, you know, hi school board, and I'd like and we to kind of follow, commit a whole day interviews that day, but and in an orientation. Do that via Zoom. We try to get up in person. They have to attend and do the interview. Is some break the law, frankly. You know, it's a.
We will, that workshop. We have 100 employees in that public sector.
Build a little bit of a before the interview day. Us will be in with us will be with the board. Will be with that group. Again, we can test off and say nope.
Great.
If an
Total win.
raises, to be able to say that.
We come prepared to, and at least they know who we are and all that good stuff. More importantly, we want to. And this rumor saying.
Drive in most.
So great, that, do you like the idea? Remember, not,
Recruiting, call it.
I do.
did you write that down? I don't.
And they voted.
They agree to,
No, she's like, say, so, good with it, John?
Let me circle back to the survey. You've got, that's okay. This is what we've used before, Clayton, and obviously, but immediately. So what passes is a and link. You know, they can just the link and go right, use their iPad. It's compatible with devices these days. And new superintendent to have come in. So if they're telling you that, you know, they think that, one of the concerns here are community relations, you're telling the new superintendent that, the community's telling the new superintendent, they're crazy if they don't listen to that. You know what I'm saying? You've got some validation for some of those requests. So, we'd love you to give us some direction tonight, but if you wanna sleep on it and make some changes, you're more than welcome to. I'm not kidding, my ego was beaten out of my writing a long time ago. So I just want a good product to go out, so I'll be happy to change anything. You don't see the raw data unless you know, we prefer for you not to see the raw data, so that you see the summary data. Because I tell them in the front paragraph there that we're the ones that are gonna compile it. But if you wanna see it, I'll change that language and you can look at the raw data all you want.
At what point do you send this out?
We can send it out Monday, if you wanted to. I mean, it's really that fast. We could get it out very quickly.
the only thing I would do, and I know this just from talking to my coworkers,
Please.
if you wanna specify whether they're a teacher, admin, or support staff, they tend to not answer any of the other questions truthfully, because they think people are gonna know too much. So,
Interesting.
do you work for Clayton Schools? Yes or no, maybe.
I see, interesting,
That's
okay.
helpful, that's why we had draft on this.
So I'll put a question mark, think about it.
That's a good point, Cassie. We're so small that there
Yep.
might only be 3 administrators.
There's only 3
Right.
administrators,
Yeah.
it's pretty, yeah.
That's true too, that's true.
Too easily identified
Yep.
makes sense.
So, yeah, I can change that to a yes, no question
Awesome.
immediately. I mean, that's easy to do.
Are any of our kids tribal members?
Do you have any?
Yes.
Yes. I wasn't sure whether you had,
Wasn't sure.
so I left it on there, but again, it doesn't.
Do you have any kind of a graphics art class at the high school? Do you have any kids that are particularly adept with anything like that you would want us to interact with in preparing materials? Because, you know, we're gonna put together a glossy, for lack of a better term, like a brochure that has things about Clayton, pictures of students, pictures of the schools, a variety of things that, again, we want to catch people's attention. They'll see the print ad, and then there'll be a link to learn more about Clayton. And if you've got anybody that, you know, wants to assist us in putting that together, Linda does an amazing job with what she does, but we don't want to
I
keep
always
your
welcome
people
help.
out of the mix if you think there is somebody to include.
I mean, it'd be great to have the kids involved, or the class involved.
Is there a class in
Is-
graphic art?
Has he-
I think the current, one of our high school teachers is doing stuff with students, and they're working on the yearbook and stuff like that. Maybe she would be a good person to ask.
Maybe to at least reach out for
Ray Tapia?
pictures. Well, we want to have pictures of kids doing
Would you
things as well.
email me her her name and contact?
Absolutely.
Thank you, that would be
The
wonderful.
most people that we could have involved, the better.
Okay, great,
From
yeah,
our-
we're with you, that's why.
And that way, everybody's in on it.
On number
Everybody-
3, when you're talking about the K-12 language program, are you
Yeah.
talking about reading or
That was what one of the other districts asked for, we can strike that easily.
I'm not sure exactly what that is.
I said that on the car coming up, I was like, I think I left that K-12 language program in there, so let's just strike that, that's easy to do.
There are districts where bilingualism is a big issue, and they're looking for both staff, and programmatic things. So, probably the most important date to still fill in, and it doesn't have to be filled in today, is a date for screening applications to narrow it down to those that you would ultimately invite in. It can become a lengthy homework assignment for you folks if we get, like in Luce's case, 11 packets that are complete. We would want every board member to have reviewed them and come to a screening meeting ready to narrow it down so that we can move forward. And I don't think we need that date today, but we definitely need to talk to you about it because we want to avoid your blackout dates as well as anything we might have.
I'm gonna look up your spring break and see if you guys know that.
March 7, I have the calendar right here. March 17th through 21st.
Okay, so we definitely wanna avoid those dates, because you're gonna have staff and parents, spring break is a biggie. Do you have an Easter vacation too?
We take a Friday and a Monday off in April, and it is April 18th and 21st.
Some boards choose to do this, the interview work on a Saturday, so that you don't have to pay for subs, and, businesses can make arrangements, and sometimes it's easier for them to get away. Other districts wanna do it during the work week, they're happy to pay for the few subs that they need for teachers in the classroom, it's entirely up to you. We always recommend a full day, and typically what that day looks like is we'll invite people to come in, let's say your board meeting starts at 8 AM, we'll invite people to come in at like 7:30, 7:45 for coffee and sweet rolls. And then, at 8 o'clock, you would call yourself into order, you do all the legal work to come to a legally called board meeting, and then adjourn immediately into executive session. And then you would interview, let's say with Tom, I would be with the advisory. Sometimes during that day, boards want a writing exercise, so we'll have a prompt for them to respond to that day, so that it's not their wife who's writing.
Or AI.
Right, or AI.
If we wanted, for you, test their communication as well as their judgment, then we're gonna give them a writing activity on site. There are several that we have scenarios. Linda mentioned one, a possible embezzlement scenario. There's inappropriate behavior.
Hundreds.
Yeah, but it's like
I've got one
limited.
dealing
Yeah.
with bullying. So, if there's something that would resonate to you guys in terms of a writing prompt, you wanna see how they deal with this kind of an issue, let us know. Otherwise, we've got several good ones.
And then, so during that day, if they're interviewing with the board, candidate 1, maybe candidate 2 is in with the advisory committee, and candidate 3 is doing the writing activity. And then, so it's just, we keep rotating around. So by the end of the day, they're exhausted, and that's by design, because most people can sustain being fake for one interview, they rarely can do it for 2. So, and they rarely can do it for a full day if they're having to write. Then we invite everybody to lunch, so the board, Tom and I, the advisory committee, the candidates, everybody has lunch together. And that is super interesting, just to kind of watch the candidate, how they move through the room, do they move through the room, how they handle it. And then after lunch, typically we say bye to everyone, and then the board meets in executive session again, and that's when we would present you with all the background information, all of the feedback from the advisory committee, the writing samples that they just completed. And so you have then the full array, if you will, of data to start looking at. And then it's been our experience that cream rises. And so you would think that might be like a 10-hour meeting. Oftentimes it's fairly short, because we have you all write down who you want, don't show it to anybody, we talk, and then we ask you to talk about who your favorite candidates are. So At that point, if you agree on a candidate, we'll call the candidate. We don't offer them the job, we just simply say, you have done a wonderful job, and we would like to pursue this relationship. Are you still interested?
It's like a weird dating app or something.
It kinda is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we don't want you to go into open session and nominate somebody or appoint somebody, and then they say, you know what, I've been to Clayton, it changed my mind. So we try to avoid that by talking to them. Again, it's not a formal offer, it can't be made until it's a legally called board meeting, and we know that. But we wanna suss out their interest still after they've spent a full day in Clayton and all that good stuff. Sometimes they bring their family, and so we may lean on some of your other staff members to maybe take the wives or husbands on a little tour of the town, you know, to look around while their significant other is interviewing, sometimes not. That's kind of, we'll figure that out as we go by, but, and then at the end of the deliberations, the board convenes an open session, calls yourself back into a special meeting, and makes the announcement. And at that point then, we will usually have a conversation with the board and the successful candidate about very basic things like the salary and things like that. Some boards like to include their attorney then in terms of negotiating a contract, and you kind of give your attorney their marching orders. Sometimes they're comfortable, boards are comfortable doing it themselves, so again, it's really up to you how you wanna handle that last little bit, but we wanna have a contract at least planned for in the next couple of days, so that you're not hanging, they're not hanging, everything is handled, and then that's it, we're done. So unless you want us to come back and do any further services, so that's kind of it. So we need a full day, we need to, for the interviews, we need a good 2, if not 3 hours. 3 hours would be ideal for screening. So again, we can come during the week, we can come whatever, but we'll need the board for that screening process for a good 2 hours, if not 3.
Cassie,
They're important.
when do we start Fridays off?
We don't.
don't
We
do
just
that
do the
anymore?
half-day
Yeah.
Fridays all year long.
Oh, the half day all
Mhm.
year from now on.
Yep.
I was wondering if we could do it on Friday.
So how
March
long
is-
after the end of February do you need before we,
A minimum of 2 weeks. So I think the soonest that we would, since we're closing the position on February 28th, the soonest that I would say we could meet would be the week of the 10th. That's really skinny because you are gonna have to do the bulk of the work. We've already seen the applications, you're the ones that are gonna have
And we're
to do
talking
it.
about the screening date now.
Right, right.
Or is that the
So-
one you were talking about,
Okay,
you were talking
March.
about the interview date?
yes,
I'm sorry, which one were you talking about?
I was talking about the screening.
Screen. Okay, so the week of the 10th or the week of the 17th, but your spring break is the 17th, so we want to avoid that. So if we could meet, you know, let's say the 12th or 13th of March to do the screening, that might be helpful. And then the interviews could be after spring break, you know, everybody goes away, takes a break, has a minute, and before we get into the Easter break of the 18th and the 21st, you could easily interview, you know, the last week of March or the first week of April
What about the 22nd of March interview?
to interview.
What do y'all think?
Well, that is the last Saturday of spring break, so some of our families might be gone,
Mm.
you know, like we have parents.
Mm. The next weekend is a Clayton basketball tournament,
Oh,
Huey
I'm
basketball.
so glad you know that, thank you, I'm so glad you know that.
That's some diehard Huey basketball in March.
Hey,
Yeah.
I don't ever mess with that,
That's a way to really get some parents upset.
But if we could do the screening at some time during the week of the 10th,
That'd be great.
I agree.
What do you think about Wednesday the 12th? Are you available on Wednesday, March 12th?
I will take a quick look, but what I was gonna say, if that's your regular board meeting, you could either do, that's not your Wednesday board meeting.
no, the following Wednesday will be, but it'll be during spring break, so we may,
Well,
I don't know.
We
No,
did
I was looking for,
We did last
if there was gonna be any way that we could, kill 2 birds with one stone.
I bet we could move it up, I bet we could move it up a week.
What
Because the next week's gonna be spring break.
The 13th.
For the
I'm
screening screening,
12th.
for the screening, you only need the board members, you don't need,
No one else, just the board. So if you want to, if your regular board meeting is the next week, the 19th, and you want a marathon, one marathon session instead of two smaller sessions, we can accommodate that too. It's up to you.
I won't be here on the 19th.
I don't know, I don't know.
can we do the 12th?
The 12th looks marvelous.
So sorry about that. Sorry about that.
That's okay, no. That's why we talk about it.
Thank God for my wife and keeping
Right.
me up to date on everything.
Good.
So now we're
Come on,
talking
girl.
about March,
12th, the Ides of March,
So this is the screening day.
yes. Does that work for you?
that's the screening.
Maybe we
Yes,
can move the
yeah.
board meeting to the next.
So, you need, did you say like 2 or 3 hours for that?
Let's plan on 3.
And fingers and toes crossed, it won't take that long.
Right. But again, it's an important decision because that's gonna drive who gets interviewed and that's that. Okay, so you're out the whole next week, so, the 29th you said was basketball?
Sorry, 1 second.
Okay,
Yes, March
Okay.
29th.
Yeah, the 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Oh, I see, okay.
It's like a turn, like a
Yeah,
3-day long
I get it,
tournament.
yep. We could do it the 5th, April 5th, that's the first Saturday in April. It's not on the Easter weekend.
Is this too far behind? Like, are we falling too far behind?
I don't think so. I mean, if you really wanted to get this done, then I think you have to look at the week of March 24th. And it couldn't be during the week, I mean,
Yeah, you can
It
avoid the
depends.
tournament if you're willing, you know, like Linda said, to absorb the cost of some subs and know that some of your community people can get away from their work.
Just 5 subs, I mean,
yeah.
that's
we're
a lot,
not
we
talking
don't even
about-
have 5 subs, but what do you think, Cassie?
I think if we're far enough out, it could be a little bit easier. And are you sure that your 5 people are just gonna be teachers? You have other staff that
That might
maybe
not be
aren't
so-
teachers that you might
That
want.
may still be on contract.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
true.
Even over spring break, but we wanted
Yeah,
that.
that- when you say staff, it doesn't mean it can't be, you know, the tech coordinator, the maintenance director,
That's
or,
The superintendent
you
secretary.
know,
That's all right.
an administrator. We've actually seen in larger districts where there's a staff committee, there's a parent committee, and there was even an administrative committee.
Mhm.
So they separated those
So,
two.
yeah, I wish we could have more people involved. I wish we could have all the administrative staff involved, you know what I mean? 'Cause they're the ones that's gonna be dealing with them.
But they may be
Day to day.
applying too,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I
And
mean, I'm just.
They
Don't
can
want that.
provide
Then you've got,
feedback to you in other ways, so.
And you've got all the answers to all the questions.
Any day, the week of the 24th is okay with me. On the 26th, on the 28th, we don't have school because it's conference day.
Oh,
I don't know
okay,
if
that.
Oh, that
we
is
wanna
right.
Avoid that.
The 28th is? Oh, that's that no school day?
Yeah. Where they do like parent-teacher.
Parent-teacher conference.
So what about a Tuesday or Wednesday? The 25th or 26th, let's look at your calendar
I'm
first.
fine.
You're good?
This
Okay.
day,
Yeah.
Yeah, so like all day.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need a full day.
I'm good
Either
with,
way.
I'm good with the 24th, 25th, 26th, or 27th, whatever y'all wanna do. And it's the biggest day of the whole dang year, so we'll all.
We need all 5 board
Yeah.
members. Mr. Barnes, what do you think?
Any day that works for me.
Ms. Lees?
Also, any of those is fine.
All right, then let's do Wednesday, the 26th. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Well, we're cranking right along, sorry it's gotten later.
This is great, we're killing it.
One
That's
of
an hour ahead.
Yeah, that one is.
Oh.
Yeah, it's only 5:30.
Yeah. Should we take a break?
Yeah.
Should've brought y'all donuts or something.
All right. And Cassie,
Yes,
you and
ma'am.
I will work together on refreshments and
Absolutely.
all of that good stuff, so
Absolutely.
we're not dumping it on you, I'll help you with
Okay,
it.
awesome.
So we'll
Yeah,
get that
and-
all handled.
If Cassie is can she be a point of contact? If there's confidential matters, we would want to know which of you board members, would it be through Ms. Leal, assuming that, you know, she's gonna be back in charge again, or is there any other board member that you would want as a point of contact? But for logistical things, like Linda was just talking about, if you'd be willing to, and the superintendent and yourselves would allow her, it would be a huge help.
Is that all right, Cassie?
That's fine with me, absolutely.
It's great with me.
Yeah.
It'll cost a soda and I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's easy.
we-
girlfriend.
A
You
coffee.
should have done something
A
better.
hot coffee.
Rookie
I
move.
Think
promise,
bigger.
I
You want me to
promise
bring
you
up
that
Chick-fil-A?
we will do something nice for this year.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all.
100%.
Promise you.
That would be great. Yeah, if Cassie could be the contact, that would be awesome, so.
Okay, so the interviews then are going to be, I'm putting it on my calendar, the interviews are gonna be March 26th. Right now, I'm just putting 8 to 5 on my calendar, I know we're not gonna need all that. And then the screening is gonna be March 12th. What time do you wanna do the screening? We can do it in the evening if you want, we can do it in the day, we like to do it in person.
Yeah, probably afternoon. And if there's a possibility that we could move our school board meeting to the 12th, since we're probably not gonna be here on the 19th,
Same.
and you're not gonna be here.
Will we be able to do the screening plus have our school board? Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
It'll
only
be a
thing,
longer day, but you can do it, oh yeah.
the only thing I would wanna watch out for is if you start the work session in advance of the meeting, and I wanna be sure you left enough time, even if you took a break between the two, because if you have guests at a meeting, and I don't know that you do, you wouldn't want them waiting and then you suddenly not starting your meeting until an hour later because you were in this work session longer.
What about 1 o'clock? It's a 3-hour deal, right? And then we could smash out by 1, or we could start it at 1 and then get it done by, 3 or 4, and
With-
then.
It
Or
may
maybe
not
we
even
get till
take that
6.
long, but if you can build it that way so it doesn't impact your regular board meeting, I think that's great, that you can tie them together and not have people out more than they need to.
Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, easy. Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
we should also see if we
You
can
too.
change that board meeting.
All you have to do at your next meeting is just make it, yeah.
Yeah. Just
So
do it.
1
The
o'clock?
districts do that all the time to avoid
Okay.
holidays and such,
Yeah.
so.
Easy.
All right, 1 o'clock on March
Right,
12th.
March 12th. Now, will one of the 3 of you maybe reach out to the other 2 board members
Yes.
and just double check the dates with them? That's the most important stuff, because if we need to move any of that, it's better to do that sooner than later, because like Cassie said, we need subs and blah, blah, blah. The only day we're gonna need the subs is the 26th, not the 12th, so it's just us on the 12th.
Maybe we could go ahead and arrange for a few.
Well, yeah, and if you guys decide fairly quickly who those people are gonna be, then, yeah, we can get it situated.
So, thank you. You have
Absolutely.
just led us right into the next thing that I didn't put on the agenda, but we need to do is a due date for your recommendations for your nominations for the advisory committee. So if we could have those by the end of this month, if we could have those by January 31st, you think that's doable?
Yes.
And what we need is their name, a cell phone number, and an email address would be ideal. And we will send you the script to do that, but, so January 31 is the due date.
Do you suggest that we visit with each other so that we're not overlapping?
You can,
Well,
absolutely.
Either that, or you could ask Cassie, you could send your nomination through her, and if she sees duplicates, she can let you guys know.
Immediately.
Which of you would then recruit somebody else, and who would let the one stand where the duplication was, we can make that work.
Absolutely, we could just do a Google Doc on,
Okay.
in Sheets that you guys could even see, and when you go in there and put your person, then you'd be able to see each other's person as well.
Okay.
I could do that pretty easy.
Would you let us have access to that too?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's
great.
perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this way we can all be in the same
Look at
place.
us streamlined stuff.
I know, you guys are
Top
like.
notch right there.
So we need to let Cassie know by before the 31st, we need to let her know
Right,
by.
that's the last thing.
I'll let you know by tomorrow.
Awesome, you're gonna hop out there first, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's check the agenda.
I think we're about there. The only other thing that I see, we did bring, Dr. Paul is her company's gonna be the fiscal agent on this project. I have one also, that we're banging back and forth, so we did bring a W-9 and a draft contract. We don't know whether we should leave it here with Mr. Barnes or with?
I can take it, and I'll give it to our business manager, and
I'll
we'll,
email it to you.
Perfect.
Because he's gonna want it electronically anyway.
Perfect.
So let me do that.
Yep.
And my company, just so you know, is Paul and Associates, and it's me and me. So, but I'll be the one that'll be invoicing you and taking care of all of that.
We need to get Zach in on this. For all of our invoices, right?
yeah, she said she could send it to him.
Yeah, I will. Oh, absolutely, 100%. And then photographs and logo,
Mm-hmm.
I can, if you give me the yearbook teacher, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
But also, at the district level, if there's any photos, and if I could get like a good, clean logo, like a
Absolutely.
JPEG or something of the logo, then that would help me.
And I know Mr. Wood wants a picture of some athletes in
Yeah.
this brochure. But if there's a choir program.
The band, think about the band.
FFA, I'll go
Like
with
maybe
that.
the state band head.
Whoever's kid's favorite color is blue.
So that would
We're
be
kidding,
helpful
but
if you
again,
could just shoot me
Yes,
some-
absolutely.
Community pictures, including kids, is just a real plus.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I wanna make sure that, you know, they're good pictures to use, that the parents aren't gonna be
Yeah.
upset that we're, cause this is going
Yep.
all over the country, so, I don't want to be in the middle of
Yeah,
family
if
stuff.
it was a team, we wouldn't want the names of the picture of the team
Okay.
members or anything like that. We'd
Okay.
just
But
take-
the more you can send me, that'd be great,
Absolutely.
because then I have a good, clean
Okay.
models to work from. I mean, I just pulled the logo off the website,
Mhm.
but it's nice to have a little higher quality
Okay.
to use, so, thank you.
And I don't see anything that we haven't talked about anywhere on the agenda or the backup.
Oh, thank you.
information.
I like this.
You're welcome.
We did the timeline, we did the characteristics, qualities, we talked about the survey, we got points of contact.
So we are gonna do a survey.
I think we definitely should.
Okay, and are you good with a Monday launch date?
Yes.
Okay.
But we will try to have this neatly tied up based on the information you've given us for you to look at again next Wednesday. That's gonna be Zoom, I hope I can make those arrangements through Cassie also, but we'd like to visit with you a little bit on Wednesday, just make sure nothing's changed, we're ready to go.
Great.
Okay, so if you could put us on the agenda, just as a report.
Absolutely.
This is exciting.
Super exciting.
This is really
Great.
exciting.
Y'all are definitely the right people for the job,
Oh,
so
thank you.
we're blessed and we're excited.
Turn it over to you guys for questions, I think we've
Yeah,
covered
anything that we
what
didn't-
we felt like we needed to do with you tonight.
I'm excited, I'm glad to have your direction.
Definitely. You guys,
Thank
there's
you.
no question y'all are the right people for this.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited.
Appreciate it.
I love your community already, and, I'm excited to be coming up here a couple of times.
Was I that obvious with the sports thing? I need to do better. I gotta have a better poker face.
Poquito.
I gotta have a better poker
I'm
face.
gonna make it harder.
I know I'm terrible at poker, but I gotta get better. I gotta
No,
get
you're
better.
If any,
parent.
if
You're
any of you
supposed to
nominate
be that
Kobe
way.
Beckner, I'm gonna exercise a veto. on it.
He is a hell of a basketball coach.
I hired him as a basketball coach in the late eighties.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Know him well.
Yeah.
Hey, seriously, it's, I think he said he's on the city council these days.
Mhm.
Yeah. Are you guys ready for me
I
to
need
stop
track him
this?
down just to say hello.
He's the mayor pro tem.
See, I heard that too.